Would you like some practical tips on how to be a single woman living alone from 1937? Of course you would, and I certainly would, because I'm a single woman who lives alone, so let's bring it on. In 1937, American Marjorie Hillis published this book, Live Alone and Like It, a guide for the extra woman. When I first saw that, I thought it was extra, like, yeah, extra baby. No, she means like spare. Leftover. Cheers, Marjorie. And speaking of Marjorie, here she is. Now, Marjorie really did walk the walk. As a young woman, in fact, as a teenager, she moved to New York and she was working at Vogue, actually, and she did indeed live on her own in her own apartment. So the first thing that you need to know about Marjorie is that she was uber privileged, because that was the only women at the time who could be living by themselves and having a career. And this is in the interwar period. Women are going into the workplace like never before. They're starting to earn their own money. And so what's one of the first things that they start to do? They start to go, oh, maybe I don't want to get married. And they didn't. Lots of them chose to live on their own. But they were the first generation, really, of women that were doing this. And unsurprisingly, this book was one of the best sellers of 1937, and it's still in print today. You can go and buy it. Right, so what does Marjorie have to tell us? The book is full of loads of practical tips and tricks on how to get by as a single woman in your own place. And one of the big ones that she opens with is don't let your standards drop. Here we go. Do go in for cosmetics in a serious way. I knew I liked Marjorie. Not any old cream, but the right creams. The right coiffeur too, and the right nail polish. And other kind of beauty tricks to make you feel elegant. This is the kind of pampering that pays. That is one of her big tips, is pamper yourself and look hot at all times. And pamper yourself. Give yourself an extra special dinner, charmingly served on a night when you are tired and all alone. Bath salts in your tub and toilette water afterward. A new and spicy book when you're spending an evening in bed. A trim little cotton frock that flatters you on an odd morning when you decide to be violently domestic. I love that I'm being violently domestic. The notion that it doesn't matter because nobody sees you with the dull meals and the dispirited clothes that follow in its wake has done more damage than all the floods of springtime. Oh, Valerie, I couldn't agree more. Another big tip that she has is that you have to invest in your friends and you have to have lots of friends. And she finishes off that chapter with this pearl. We have left the real crux of the problem to the last, feeling that it's a delicate matter. For the truth is that if you're interesting, you will have plenty of friends. And if you're not, you won't, unless you're very, very rich. Unfortunately, the first is easily accomplished, and we hope to tell you how in the latter chapter. That is savage, Marjorie. She also has advice on having affairs, by which she just means extramarital relationships, and she says things like this. Certainly affairs should not even be thought of before you are 30. Right, so that we're starting strong with that. Once you've reached this age, if you will not hurt any third person and can take all that you have to take it silently and with dignity and a little humour and without weeping or wailing or gnashing of teeth. Perhaps the experience will be worth it to you, or perhaps it won't. Starting to think maybe Marjorie and I dated the same men. And she drops this absolute belter in her chapter about single women and relationships. The sad truth is that whatever you decide, you think you'll regret it. You'll hate the shabby end of romance and you'll detest missing it altogether. If there's any answer, it's probably to walk a straight and narrow path, keeping so busy and amused that you haven't time to stew about the things you lack. Keeping also, and this is the best trick we know of, enough men and mystery about you so nobody can guess how you have solved the problem. She also offers practical advice on what to do if you're sick as a single woman. And this is what she comes up with. Don't stay alone if you're very sick. Go to a hospital or a relative's house. You'll be better off in a small hospital ward. These can be very comfortable indeed. If that is the only alternative to staying in your own room with no one to look after you. I told you she was privileged. When you are ill is not the time to be noble, and often is not the time to show your spunk. Dear God, no. Spunk may be a virtue when you are in good health, but it can be a vice when you are sick. You know that's not what she means. You know that's not what she means. The sensible thing is to go in for being a weak woman thoroughly and intelligently and get over your complaint as rapidly as possible. The book is actually quite surprisingly progressive for 1937, and she is funny, and she writes things like this all the way through, and I think this is a good place to leave it with her. If all this sounds a little dreary, think of the things that you all alone don't have to do. You don't have to turn out the light when you want to read because somebody else wants to sleep. You don't have to have the light on when you want to sleep because somebody else wants to read. You don't have to get up in the middle of the night to fix someone else's hot water bottle, or lie awake listening to snores, or be vivacious when you're tired, or cheerful when you're blue, or sympathetic when you're bored. You probably have your own bathroom all to yourself too, which is unquestioningly one of life's greatest blessings. You don't have to wait till somebody finishes shaving when you are all set for a cold cream session. You have no one complaining about your pet bottles, nobody to drop wet towels on the floor, and nobody occupying the bathtub when you just have time to take a shower. From dusk till dawn, you can do exactly as you please, which after all is a pretty good allotment in this world where a lot of conforming is expected of everyone. Right, well, I'm off to go and be violently domestic.